would like to introduce Dr. Hatem Bazian, who is a professor at UC Berkeley. I actually was a student of his when I was there at Cal. Dr. Bazian is known by all of you, but he specifically tonight is going to be speaking about the report called Islamophobia in India, Stoking Bigotry Report. It was a report generated by the Islamophobia Research and Documentation Project within the Ethnic Studies Department at UC Berkeley. So without further ado, Dr. Bazian.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Mubarak. And hopefully, inshallah, this will be a blessed and Ramadan. What I wanted to actually give is a brief overview of where we are at on the research on Islamophobia in India. But prior to that, just to say on the personal level of my own relations and family relations to India, I'm a Palestinian, but my brother actually studied in Osmani University in Hyderabad, and also my cousin likewise studied in Osmani University in Hyderabad. The reason is that Osmani University have seats dedicated to Palestinians. So every year from various parts of Palestine, as well as Palestinians in refugee camps, they actually dedicate a number of seats for students to come. So there's a whole alumni network of Palestinians who graduated from Hyderabad and have relations to India. So I had relations and interest in India for quite a long time. But more recently, as the work on Islamophobia at Berkeley through the Islamophobia Research and Documentation Project, we began to notice the intensification of hostilities toward Muslims in a different level than before. If you want to rank India in relations to Islamophobia, I would put it right now maybe in the third place. China is possibly at the #1 place, the Rohingya and Myanmar, and then we get to India in terms of the type of stoked Islamophobia that is structural. I think here in the United States we talk about Islamophobia. It's not as structural. Structural is not as structural as we see in India in terms of the total demonization of Muslims in such a way that you have open season on Muslims with lynchings taking place, the whole attempt to externalize the Muslim population. So as a result of some of the discussion, we ended up actually going to Kerala, India and Cochin to try to see what is taking place and also to develop relations with some of the researchers, especially on the idea of decolonial studies, because I do work on decoloniality, because some of the Hindu nationalists are saying that Muslims are colonized India, and therefore when they are writing on decolonial thought, they're not talking about the British, they're talking about the Muslims, talking about, completely missing the pole in this sense. So they are speaking and writing from a Hindu nationalist perspective to say that the Muslims are the colonial power, and what we need is to liberate the country and remove the colonial power or the colonial influence on the country, speaking about the Muslims. So we had to do some workshops specifically on what does it mean to actually engage in decolonial thought, what is the foundation of it, and the literature to take it outside of this Hindu nationalist paradigm. And as a result of this, some of the students came and began to come from India to study with us. We have a program in Spain to begin the process of actually having intellectual links with those who are doing work on the ground. So this report, which we have just a small sample of it. You have it on your table. It's a 127-page report. It's the first of its kind report that deals with Islamophobia in India. So this is, again, what's important about this is that it begins to have an intellectual and a scholarly work that is to be cited. We tried to get the report printed to be available for you today, but because it's fully colored and so on, it's going to take some time. Our goal is to get this report in the hands of policymakers, our local congressmen, as well as on national level, the State Department. So we could have something that actually could be cited and referenced when you have discussions. And it has, again, the material in it is extensive. One of the challenges that you know in relations to India, there isn't a central depository of material on Islamophobia or hate-based violence. So you actually just collecting the data to try to get it in as much of a sound data set to use was a challenge in itself. And we also made sure that any case that we cite have at least 2 citations behind it. So it would not be challenged, because we understood that we're going to be attacked heavily, and so far we have. If you go to the Facebook of the report that is being posted, all of the Hindu nationalists have been just going on at it on a regular basis. So our methodology was to make sure that everything that we write have at least 2 citations behind it in order to support it, so no one can say that this is not actually accurate from a scholarly perspective. So I encourage you to actually use the report. It's available as a PDF file for you to download, to share it with those that you know, and then begin to actually use some of the findings as you speak to advocate and speak in relations to issues pertaining to Muslims in India in a systematic way. This is the first part, and we're hoping to continue to produce materials. I think the elections of the 19th will actually be something to watch for. I am worried that in India they will use the similar type of strategy that Cambridge Analytica used in the 2016 election in here. So we want at least to see whether there's some similar type of deployment of these type of strategies of using Islamophobia to target especially the Dalits as a way to get them to vote and possibly influence the election outcome, as well as, you know, the taking voters out of the rosters, which has been a major crisis and a major problem. So my thinking that the PGP will actually engage in a similar strategy, because there is a relationship between the Islamophobic industry in the US and Europe and some of the Hindu nationalists that are engaging in this type of a strategy. So these are some of the links that we're seeing. I'm not going to go through all of the reports, but the findings are very important, and it's very critical for us to continue engaging. If you don't document what is taking place, as if it didn't happen. And our motto has been, if you don't report it, it doesn't happen. If you don't document it, if you don't have a scholarly engagement in it, it didn't happen. It becomes about feelings. And I know feelings are important, but we're dealing with people's life. We're dealing with violence that is being stoked people that are being attacked in the street, the whole love jihad infrastructure, the attempt to externalize the Muslims, the beef violence that being... So we have many issues that we need to document and to be vigilant on these issues as we engage in this field. So Jazakumullah khair for this invitation. I have to run across to speak to an ECHO fundraiser for the Bangladeshi community, but when Manzoor said that this is happening, I said I'll come inshallah and then I'll head out in there. So I'm running out, not out of fear, but because they asked me to be there inshallah. So Jazakumullah khair, may Allah bless you and continue to bless the work of IMRC and continue to save our brothers and sisters in India. I think the legacy and history of what has been the contribution in India has been tremendous, and I think what we need is to continue to engage and make sure that their rights and their human dignity and their livelihood is maintained, and our work in here is very important. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you to Dr. Hatem Bazian for that presentation, and he reminded me that the report that he's referencing is available online at iphobia.org, and so it's something that you can find and look up. One thing that's notable about that workup is it essentially confirms something that we probably all know, is that Muslims in India have faced a systemic history of discrimination. It's one of the things that Muslims in India are having to climb uphill against for years and years and years, and still to this day are fighting against. And so it's that systemic discrimination on top of other means and methods of poverty, the other things that we're going to talk about tonight, that when you give to IMRC that you're helping push back against, you're helping uplift our Muslim brothers and sisters in India that are fighting that battle every day.